Well, hello everyone. Hey Cynthia, how are you? Thanks for joining. I appreciate you coming out. I hope your day has been great. I hope you got a lot done because you are a hustler for sure.
Yes, she is.
she, she is. She's a phenomenal woman. I love her. She's just phenomenal.
Me
Well, I'm
too.
going to go ahead and start talking because also Gabrielle, this is going to be going to a podcast as well. So
Awesome.
we're filming this live on YouTube right now. I have the wonderful Gabrielle from Pink and Gablious, and she's also the thought trainer. We'll talk more about that. So I'm so excited that she's come on. I'm actually very honored. She's going to share a lot of wealth of inspiration to us, was I'm gonna call it inspiration. So yeah, hello, girl. Hello, hello. Well, anyway, I'm gonna go ahead and get into it. Because
Well, first
time
of
is
all,
money.
thank you for having me on. I'm excited to be on. So thank you. And thanks everybody for tuning in.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate you. I first met Gabrielle. Actually, it was with Poshmark. Okay, and so she's actually a serial entrepreneur. So that's why we're very fortunate to have her on. You are. So that's why we're very fortunate to have her on because she actually has an online store. She was a blogger. Now she's a life coach as well. And there's probably other stuff that she does, and she will definitely let me know. We'll get into that, but she does keep very busy. And as a serial entrepreneur myself, that was one of the things that attracted me to her. Plus, she's a very kind person. I love people that have a kind. She's the type of person that's going to treat the janitor and the CFO the same way. So that's really important. I think that's really key. And I'm pretty sure she got some of those wonderful things for her granny. I remember you was talking about your granny in an article that I read about you.
Yes,
Uh,
love my granny.
yeah, I know. I could tell. I could tell. Speaking of which, hey, Nikki, how are you doing? Hey, Michelle, welcome, welcome. It's nice to see you. Speaking of which, I'm going to talk about an article I read about you. It was on a Voyage ATL. It was
Mhm.
really a great article, by the way. One of the
Thank
things that stood one of the things that stood out to me was that you had always been interested in what people were thinking, their thought process, even as a little girl. So the question I wanted to ask you is, what experience did you have as a little girl that kind of made you gravitate towards wanting to know those things? Do you remember?
Oh, that's an interesting question. I think I don't know if there was any one particular thing that drew me to that. It was just that I loved people and was
Mm-hmm.
always fascinated by people and always interested in what they were thinking and why they were thinking it. And a lot of it was based on like some of their choices.
Mm-hmm.
I noticed growing up, I there was a guy who he was an alcoholic, and he would walk by our house like several times a day, and he would just be, just kind of stumbling down the road. And I remember being a little girl, and I was scared of him, but at the same time I was intrigued by him and like what was going, through his mind as he was, making his way down the road. And I remember talking to my parents and asking them like what was going on with him. And I kept asking why, and they didn't know, and basically told me that it was based on like choices that he made and all of that kind of stuff. So then in my brain I'm like, okay, well, why did he make that choice? And it was situations like that. Yeah, that was a more extreme example, but there are other examples, like positive examples for sure, about people and the way that they make decisions and make choices, and how that shows up in their lives.
Well, you know what? It sounds like y'all you were very well. First of all, it sounds like you were very intelligent.
or nosy.
You do. You sound like a very intelligent young child, and I bet you from kind of what you just told me that you probably loved just talking to adults when you were a kid.
Yeah.
You would almost prefer to do that sometime than possibly playing. Is that about correct?
It's true. I was an only child for a long time. And so
Hmm.
I was only around, my parents and other adults. I used to play with my cousins a lot too, but yeah, mostly around my parents and other adults.
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay, I could see that.
Yeah.
I could definitely see that. So this was interesting to me. So I'm going to get you to tell me a little bit more about this. So I know you end up going, when you went to college, you decided to do information technology. What was the pressure to have you go in that direction? I don't know if pressure is the right word, but what made you feel like that you should go in that direction instead of into, and we'll talk more about why I'm asking this question in a second, but what made you feel compelled to go in that direction at the time?
Um, I would say, well, the main thing was money. Um, at,
Okay.
at that time, computers were becoming the way of the world. And I was basically told, because we're brought up, we brought up, go to college, find a good job, make good money, the family, all of these things. So I was basically checking all the boxes. And with the IT related stuff, I knew again that was the way that the world was going in, and that was guarantee a guaranteed moneymaker once I graduated college. Now,
That
had I been being real, that would have looked completely different. And I guess we'll get into that. But yeah,
mhm.
it was based on the money at that time. What job can I get? What major can I choose that would guarantee me, a certain amount of money right out of college?
Yeah, that makes so much sense because I basically took on a major doing the same thing. Now I
Okay.
ended up leaving. I didn't complete the degree that I was initially going for, but that was the reason I picked it. It was about money, and during the process, I realized how much I hated it.
Yeah.
But interestingly enough, I ended up getting to computers, but I was actually selling it, which I really did enjoy that. I sold computers before people knew how to even turn on a computer, interestingly enough. But then I
Nice.
got more so, yeah, you know how back in the day you had to really explain to somebody how to just turn on a computer.
Yep.
That's really aging me there, but really, that's when I was selling them. And then I would do government contracts and, educational contracts and stuff like that. So, hey, Wendy, how are you? Wonderful, Wendy.
Wendy.
Yeah, Wendy from Salt Creek Style. She is wonderful. I'm going to be modeling something of hers. Look for that tomorrow,
Oh,
guys.
yay.
She's
Can't wait to see it.
incredible. Where all of these women up here are incredible women. All of these people are serial entrepreneurs that you're looking at right now, which is why I wanted to do a program like that, because everybody needs to be up on finding their purpose and all that good stuff. But interestingly, she taught herself how to sew, and now she does a lot of custom work for people. So very talented indeed. But anyway, what was I going to tell you? We were talking about, yeah, I did the same thing, so I can relate. And then I was into the computer industry, which I did really well in that for a while, and I did really like that job for a while. It brought some good money, but like you said, I think we do make a lot of choices, especially when we're young. And I think, and I don't know if this was the case for you, but for me, you're always hearing about where you go to school because you want to make some money, you want to do this, you want to do. And I think that's so, ingrained in us. And we think that that's really what's going to bring us happiness. Of course, we learn better later on.
Yes.
Yes. So getting onto that now, you had done it for a while. Like how many years would you say that? Well, you're still in it now. I know that's part of what you do as well.
Hmm.
But let's put it this way. So how long did you work when you realized I'm really hating this?
Oh, let's see. So there were different phases of it. So I started out as an engineer. And so I
Mm-hmm.
was doing software engineering. And I did that for about 10 years. And
Hmm.
then around that time is when I was like, yeah, this is not it. Um,
Hmm.
and so I transitioned into, I said, maybe because I wasn't quite sure what I wanted to do. And so I was like, I knew I wanted to focus on the people more, the people aspect
Hmm.
more. Just sitting behind
Okay.
a computer writing code all day was giving me the blues. So I was like, okay, well, what can I do to be um, around people, or in more direct service to people? And so that's when I transitioned over to first business analysis and then a project manager,
Okay.
which is what I do now. I'm a project manager in my full-time job. And so that allowed me to focus more on people and focus more on serving the people versus the computer and the coding and all of that kind of stuff. So, I've been doing that for about 5 years, I guess. And and so like doing that again, it helped me get more into the people, but still it wasn't quite it. And so that's how I got into life coaching.
Okay. But that was good that you made some changes. And that's so funny because I was a project manager at one time. I actually enjoyed that too.
Yeah, yeah,
I,
I
I,
like it.
I was in Phoenix, Arizona when I was doing that. I really thoroughly enjoyed it. Just the project ended at the time. So then I ended up doing something else. But I love what you're doing. You realized you weren't happy. So you said, okay, I'm
Mhm.
going to make a change in your career. And this is great advice, everyone, because obviously we have a lot of people that are entrepreneurs up here, but there's people that are in corporate America. And of course, Evolving Always Protections about us, improving ourselves. So if you're in corporate America and you're like, oh, I don't want to leave corporate America, but I'm really hating what I'm doing, start reevaluating other things you can do and take on other positions because it
Yes.
could bring it could really freshen up things for you, which is what you did, but you still knew you had a different path.
Yeah, and I mean, I think that part of it is very important because especially when you don't really know exactly what you want to do, you just know that this is not it, right? And
Hmm.
so instead of just quitting, it's almost like, and the thing that worked for me also is that I really loved my company and I love the people that I work with. So that was very helpful. Like I didn't enjoy the work, and so I was able to go to my manager at the time and say, hey, I really want to stay with this company. However, I feel like I've outgrown my position as an engineer, and I'd like to see if I can, transition into something different, more closely working with people, whether it be, internally my team or, you know, directing a project, which is what I ended up doing. So just managing.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's awesome. That's the best advice you can give because there's a lot of people that don't need to totally step out on their own. And for reasons like you have brought up before, because sometimes people are like, well, they're accustomed to a certain lifestyle. So that's why they're like, well, what else can I do? But I'm still not happy.
Yeah.
So again, and obviously we're going to get into finding your purpose. So now I know you went into project management, but that's still in your mind, I know was not your purpose. So when did you really realize, your purpose?
Yeah, it's funny because okay, so if we back up to um, me going to college and choosing a degree, had
Hmm.
I been real with myself at the time, it would have been more of like psychology or something. That's
Right.
what I would have majored in because
Right.
at the time, that's the kind of like we talked about in my childhood, like that's the type of stuff I was interested in, the way the
Hmm.
mind works, the way people work, the way people think. And so, yeah, and then fast forward, I ignored that. And so fast forward into it about 20 years, um, I got to thinking, when I was miserable. And I mean, I tried everything. I did all the personality quizzes. I did find your purpose tests, and I did all the things. And I ended up going to a conference. It was like a 3-day workshop, and it was one of those like transformational kind of deals, and it's called Landmark. I don't know if anybody on here is familiar with Landmark. And there were some, and I hate to say that name because a lot of people associate that with a cult or some kind of, sometimes, or whatever. But anyway, anyway, it helped me to see things completely different. And it helped me to see that, notice the way that I was thinking about the world and in my life specifically. And from that, I was able to open myself up a little more. Mm-hmm. And that kind of opened, it really and truly opened up the whole world for me. So I was able to think and kind of dig a little deeper. And it wasn't this, like I was sitting there doing work or something like that, and then I had this moment, like it didn't happen like that, right?
No, I love that. Though we would love for it to be like that, right?
Don't you? Right?
Yeah.
It was really, I was actually on my commute home. I was listening to a podcast or something that a friend had sent to me. And you know how when you're listening to something, after you're done, it kind of, the algorithm chooses something different for you. You might like this kind of deal. And so I just kept going and listened to it. And it ended up being an ad or like a series for a life coaching. And I listened to the lady's story, and it was exactly my story. She worked for HP. She was in corporate America. She was in IT. It was my exact story. And she just talked about finding the perfect career. And I followed that. And by the end of it, I was literally in tears. I was like, oh my gosh. And what I realized after the fact was that I had known it all along, but I just didn't think it was possible. Like I was thinking that, I've spent 20 years in IT. Like I couldn't see anything outside of that. Like, no way is that possible. I would have to go to school, get another degree. I was thinking all these things, and I'm like, that's just crazy. What about all the time I've invested in my career and all of that stuff? Like all of those reasons, I kept tuning it out, when I thought about it after the fact, like what held me back for so long, those were the reasons why.
Wow. I love it, because you really did find it. I mean, you got emotional about it. So that means it was definitely meant to be. Oh my goodness. I love that story. So Cynthia is asking, who is your favorite motivational speaker?
Oh gosh. I would say, I have so many. I would say like Les Brown probably comes to the top of mind.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I love Les Brown. I love his story.
And I'm gonna have to check him out. Cynthia, she's so sweet, by the way, Cynthia. She had actually got me. Yeah, I know, she's such a sweet person. She had hooked me up to Mel Robbins. Have you listened? Oh yeah, okay. And of course, I love her 5-second rule. I talk about this all the time. I know people are probably getting tired of talking about it. I'm talking about the people that are listening to me now, because I mentioned it because I loved it so much. And Cynthia had actually, hyped me. She had mentioned that to me, and I'm glad I listened. Yeah, Kim, Les Brown. Welcome, Kim Johnson.
Yes. I love Mel Robbins too. The 5-second rule, it works. I tell you, that's something.
It does.
It's something. It really is.
I tell people that it really does work,
Yeah.
And those are great people too. Definitely, Nikki. Definitely great people. And this is Glow Girl Glow.
Yeah,
She
Gary
is
Vee.
glowing. We call her glowing up. She's really phenomenal too. She's also a serial entrepreneur. She's actually in the ATL area like yourself. So
What?
yeah, that's right.
Hey, girl.
So yeah, so I love what you're saying. So you really felt this. So you're like, okay, this is it. I found my purpose. So
Mm-hmm.
obviously we know now you are the thought trainer and
Yeah.
you help other people find your purpose. And what I found interesting in the article is you said something to the effect of that you help people, I guess maybe find their purpose. Now you can correct me if I'm like phrasing this incorrectly, but find their purpose like within 6 months as opposed to something that took you like years. Am I saying that right? Was that what you were trying to say in that article?
Yes, that's absolutely right. Yeah, because looking back on it now, I can see where I was blocked. You know what I mean? It took me a
Mm-hmm.
long time to get there, and I looking back at it, I can see where I was blocked and my how my thinking had me stuck. And so what I live for now is to help other women do the same thing in like way short amount of time, way shorter amount of time.
And
So
that's so important because, and I'm a really stress why, because when you're not living your purpose, so many things happen with that. Serious depression,
yes.
people taking antidepressants, which we know can make things worse. We know that.
Hmm.
Suicidal tendencies, all of these things, if you're not living your purpose. So it's really great. When I read that part about you saying, like, I said, that's huge because you're helping them, yeah, find their purpose, but you're also helping them with their life, their mental, well-being, just everything.
Yeah, and it's true. And even though like with my clients, even though we focus on finding their purpose,
Mm-hmm.
um, there are so many other aspects that come up during coaching because like for me, the blockage was, I was just thinking that it wasn't possible and that, I thought it was too late and the time that had invested in my career and all that kind of stuff. But with other people, everybody's story is different. There's other things that might be blocking them, might be affecting them, whether it be relationships, whether it be finances, whether it be, I mean, all kinds of things. And we don't realize it until we get in there and just start pulling back the layers because there's like layers and layers and layers of stuff that's kind of covering up your ability to see what it is that you're destined to do.
Yeah, that's so true. We've got the Grateful Queen on. I'm not sure if you're familiar with her or not, but she is phenomenal. She has a YouTube channel called The Grateful Queen. She's also the Grateful Therapist. Is that right? And correct me if I'm wrong about that, Quimby. Let me know because I think
Yeah.
you have a YouTube channel called The Grateful Therapist. Just get me straight if I'm wrong about that. She'll let us know if I'm incorrect about that title. But she's phenomenal too, and she's definitely got a lot of your thought process of what you're talking about. So really great person. But what was the other thing I wanted to ask you in regards to that? So you're doing that in 6 months, and I know you're helping. The other thing, this is what it was. I don't know how many people just say yay or nay in the comments are really checking out Pink and Gablius on Instagram. Pink and Gabius on Instagram. And I hope my comments are still working.
It looks
Okay.
like yeah.
All right. Because I was telling Gabrielle earlier that somebody was doing a YouTube and their comments wasn't working last night. So I'm like, I'm glad you put something up there, Quimby. Okay, but anyway, yeah, exactly. But I hope y'all are checking her out on Instagram. And the reason I say this is because of all the posts that she does that are so phenomenal. And I'm not and please read the actual I guess the
Caption.
caption, I guess. Yeah, thank you. I was about to say comments, but please read the caption because That's the most important part. I mean, granted, the actual post itself, if you're just being really fast, yeah, it's great. But she put so much into her captions.
Thank you.
I'm telling you, I absolutely love it. And she is a blogger. She's been a blogger for a very long time, because you were a blogger before you even decided to become a life coach.
That's
But
true. I
now
was
you're
a fashion blogger.
okay. Go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say I was a fashion blogger under the
That's
same name.
right.
Yeah, yeah, yep.
That's
It's
right.
true.
You're right, Cynthia, and that's unfortunate, because that's why I had to stress that if you're following her and you're not reading the actual captions, you're missing out, because she really puts powerful messages in there, powerful messages in her captions. But yeah, you were a blogger for a while, and that was the other thing that because when I finally came on Instagram, like I said, I think I met you when I went to my very first Posh Fest, but it was just how you meet so many people, it's hard to really remember anything. And then I joined Instagram. And what attracted me about you, and I don't know if people that remember this or not about Gabrielle, but she used to do the selfie where she has her whole outfit. I mean, it's like her beautiful face, the jewelry. She usually wears a blazer with the pants and you can literally see her whole outfit. I
Let
don't
me
even
tell
know how she
you.
did it. I actually tried to do it one time, and I think you remember I tagged you on it. It was
I do.
so funny.
I remember that. Let me tell you though, the struggle was real with that. Like my my daughter, she was much younger at the time. She's 13 now, but she was probably about 6. And let me tell you, she was over me with taking pictures of me every day of my outfit. She was done. So I had to come up with something else. I had to come up with my own way of doing it. And I ended up perfecting that thing because I'm like, well, I can't figure this
I'm gonna tell you right now, you got that on lock. There has been nobody else I have seen that has done it. But I was like, it used to fascinate me too. But I said, yeah, I'm gonna try it. And I did actually get everything, but I said, this is still not her. You would have that stuff down perfect. But anyway,
Next Posh Fest, I got you. Next Posh Fest, I got you.
right. So the other thing was, so like she said, she was a fashion blogger. But now it is the thought trainer, and she's a blogger. Please read her material. Like I said, read the captions, read her blogs. Um, just so much phenomenal information. I cannot stress. Oh yeah, that's right, Kim. How can I not mention that?
Thank you, Kim.
Coordinated work. Very coordinated. You're so right, Kim.
Oh my God. Thank you. Thank
But
you.
yeah, so definitely make sure you're doing that if you have not been utilizing it. The other thing that Gabrielle does, she does like many what's the best way you want to call it? Like many free coaching sessions. Give me the right verbiage, because I'm not be doing what you actually want on that.
Yeah, they're free mini sessions. And so basically, if you're interested in working with me and seeing what it's like to work with a life coach or to work with me specifically, I do offer a free 30 to 45-minute mini session. And that's basically where we kind of talk through what your challenges are, and then you ask me questions, I ask you questions, and we just see if we're a good fit for each other.
Right. Exactly. So she even offers that. But the main thing is, the reason why we wanted to have a discussion is because not everybody still knows their purpose. And is there like any kind of quick little thing you can give, to like maybe give people a little test right now to see if they're doing their purpose? Anything that you want to throw out there?
Well, yeah, the first thing is, real quick. I mean, like right off, if you're not in your purpose, there's a void there. And it's funny because with me personally, by everybody else's standards, I was
Mhm.
was successful. You know what I mean? Like they look
Right.
at you, they see you make all this money and you have the job, the family, the house, all the things. And but nobody could see that internally, like I was miserable. I was crushed. Like, what in the world is going on? And it was really that I felt like something was missing. I felt like I should be doing more. There was something more that I should be doing. I felt like what I was doing was not making a direct impact. I wanted to make a direct impact into people's lives, and I was not getting that with what I was doing every day in my corporate job. And so that's one of the main signs. Like if you feel like something is missing and that you want to be doing more and you want to live a more meaningful life, because a lot of people, it's like this feeling of just unfulfilled is basically
Right.
what it is. It's just that unfulfilled feeling and something that's tugging at you that you may have been like pushing it down for so long that you barely even notice it, but it keeps popping back up. It keeps coming up. It keeps coming up, and you push it down.
Yeah.
The
And
telltale.
that makes so much sense. Um, the way you just explained that makes so much sense. So if anybody is dealing with that right now, she's giving you a lot of it's just a good time to have some self-reflection. I think is really what I'm trying to say. Brainstorming. This is the time because you want to really start off running for 2021.
Yes.
You want to start making sure that you're living in your purpose for sure. The other thing is, there was another question I have for you that I was interested in. So what would you say once somebody realizes their purpose? What do you think are some of the things they should first start doing?
Once they realize it, I'd say identify 2 small steps that they can take. Because I
Mm-hmm.
think a lot of times one of the reasons why a lot of people don't actually move on their purpose is because they get overwhelmed by it. And so it looks like this big, massive ordeal that they have to, they have to conquer all at once. And then that ends up, discouraging people. And that ends up, you get overwhelmed and then so you do nothing. So I recommend that you just take 1 or 2 small steps, depending on what it is, what you have identified as your purpose. But just take 1 or 2 small steps and take the necessary actions to accomplish those 2 steps or those 2 small goals, and just go from there instead of trying to, become a musician by tomorrow. Maybe you just go identify an instrument or a couple of gigs that you can do, on the weekends, just a couple of small things instead of, hey, I'm going to go to Hollywood next week to live out my dream.
And I totally love the way you position that, because what happens is sometimes people are doing all or nothing.
Yeah.
So like they'll come into a realization and I'll use the movie star thing, being that you threw that out there. They'll be like, okay, yes, I want to be a movie star. I don't really have any money, but I'm just going to go to California and it's going to happen for me. And then, next thing you know, they don't have a place to stay, they're struggling. And years later, they never get to where they need to get to because they should have taken smaller steps to work themselves up to that. I totally agree with that.
Yeah, and I'm glad you said that too, because a lot of people think that that's how it has to be in order to live out your dream. They think, because we see these things on TV or we read in the books where people give up everything to go and pursue that, which, I mean, it works for some people. That's perfectly fine. But that's not the way it has to be. And so I think that ends up discouraging people, that ends up scaring people away, because they think, okay, well, if I want to pursue this photography business, then I'm going to have to give up everything that I have right now in order to do it. And that's just not the case. You don't have to give up everything in order to do it. Now, if you want to do that and you have the means to do that, then by all means, but just don't feel like that's the way that you have to do it, because that's what ends up getting a lot of people discouraged, and then they quit and give up on their dream.
I totally agree, and they'll give up right when it's like so close because they did it the wrong way to begin with. And I know I like what Quimby says. She says everything I do needs to be in line with my life purpose. Otherwise, it has no real meaning and it's just busy work. And I can relate to that, Quimby, in so many ways. And then you feel like you're in drudgery when you have to do that too. So I totally relate to that. And there was another thing that she actually said that I wanted to bring up. Well, let me get that off right here. And I agree with that too. Journaling is
Mhm.
so helpful to explore the direction she's going to take in her life. And would you recommend that, or do you recommend that?
Absolutely, absolutely.
Hmm.
I have a practice that I do every morning, with just I call it a thought download. And
Hmm.
what it is I just dump everything out of my brain and put it on paper. Because what
Hmm.
happens is, we have our minds go 1,000 miles a minute, right? So we have
Right.
all these thoughts going on, and so and we think that we can keep it in there and we'll have it all together. But actually, when you get it down on paper and you can look at it, like you're dumping it out of there and freeing up that space for other things. But also, you can take a look at what's in your brain, what's in there, and decide from there if that's the kind of stuff you want to continue thinking, or if you want to change some of that. Because especially when it comes to your purpose. Like if you have a whole bunch of negative stuff, and I mean, we all do. I would wake up in the mornings and I'm just like, oh, I don't want to do this today. You know what I mean? So you get that down on paper, and now I can see what that is. I can see what all those negative thoughts are and figure out where they're coming from. And then I can address them. But if I keep them in my head, in my mind, I'm walking around with them all day long. And so that kind of sets the tone for your entire day.
Yeah, that's so true. And that's why some people will end up having a bad day.
Yeah.
And I say that because, and I learned this a long time ago, but I forgot where I read it. It's one of these motivational things that I read. But when you wake up in the morning, and let's say your morning at first is not great, you have to decide right then the rest of my day is going to be great. And really
Yeah.
mean it in your head, and it works every time. I know it seems like a small thing, but I used to do it all the time. And the times I didn't do it, granted, everything would go kind of crazy. But when I took time to say, the rest of my day is going to be outstanding, it would every time. I would just, it was like I would take a light switch and just shut it off. I'm like, okay, no, it's not going to be a bad day. It's going to be a great day.
That's
It
right.
does work.
It
It
does.
works.
A lot of people don't know that we get to choose the
We
thoughts that
do.
we have.
We
Um,
do.
we get to choose those thoughts, and it's very important to know that if you have like the negative thinking, like you said, the one about having a bad day, like whatever that thought was that made you start off having a bad day, like you can choose to change that. And it sounds like what you're saying is you do. You're like, yeah, okay, well that happened, but the rest of the day is going to be great. So let's go.
It works. Trust me, guys. I've been doing that for a long time. It really does
Yeah.
work. It turns it around. Yeah, because granted, we don't have control over everything in life. We know that, but there's so many things that we can control. And once you really realize that, things will go a lot better in your life. Um, and Quimby says sometimes all we can control is our own thing. So true.
Yes. Yes.
I mean, she hit
Definitely
the
not
nail.
other
She hit the
people.
nail on the head there. That is for certain. We can't change
Yes.
circumstances or people. Only our thoughts and our reaction. That's on
Yes.
it
If
right
we
there.
can change
That's golden
people,
right there.
if we can change people, sign me up.
It's-
I I put my husband and my daughter at the top of the list. I'd be like, oh, let me see. Let me try and control what you do. I want to control what you're thinking right now. Yeah, it's
You're
true.
right. No, I love that. If we could really do that, we would be on it. And Cynthia was saying it does work for her, putting positive thoughts and thinking. Oh yeah, in the mirror. Glad you brought that up. That
Yes.
is so important. Say manifestation, affirmations. Yes,
Yes.
I love
So
it. Mm, that does work. It does definitely does work. Thanks for bringing that up. And then Kim says, "Love that. Dump that negative. That's right. Dump it. Put it in a trash can. Turn it off, as I like to say. Click it off. Remote up. Negativity. Click it off. Turn to another channel. Get rid of it."
yes, get rid of it. And I think too,
I know.
a lot,
Definitely, that was a good one. Go ahead. That was funny, but I'm sorry. Go ahead, Gabrielle.
it was funny, but I'm serious. Um, yeah, no, I was thinking, I was gonna say about the negative thinking, like it's inevitable and it's gonna happen. I just think the key to it is just not to focus on it, because you know what happens when you um focus on your whatever thoughts you have, your brain is going to find evidence for it. So if you're thinking negative thoughts, if you're thinking, oh gosh, this is a horrible day, this is going to be a bad day, then your brain is going to go to work looking for all of the horrible things that could happen. And the energy that you put out there can definitely, attract all the negative things. And then when you switch it to positive and saying, no, this is going to be a great day, then your brain goes to work looking for that as well. It goes to work looking for all the positive things, all the great things, gives you ideas of things that you could do to make it a great day, all of those things. So that's very important.
So you brought something up to me, the self-talking.
Hmm.
You see, in your mind, you do have to talk to yourself. I totally agree with that. And it does help you to recognize things that you wouldn't necessarily recognize. I totally agree with that. It's so key to do that, to get you through the day. And another thing that helps me, because you brought up a good point, every now and then we have those days where things aren't where we want them to be. And I think everyone can relate to that. Think you would think, well, I should be here now, but I'm still here. Like
Yeah.
I'm not where I want to be. So then that's when the negative thinking starts happening. For me, what helps me is get busy doing something. Even it's
Mm-hmm.
just sitting down, like going back to the journaling, like I think Quimby had brought up, and like Gabrielle was talking about, just journaling or something, but doing something, because sometimes doing something just starts making you feel better, and then it gets the juices flowing, creativity, and effect. What are your thoughts about that, Gabrielle?
Yeah, I think that's a good way, but I also think too, just addressing, kind of digging a little bit into what why you're thinking that. You know what I mean? Because a lot of times
Good.
when we're thinking that we're not where we supposed to be or where we should be or
Mm-hmm.
whatever, it comes from, in some cases, and not saying this is the case for you, but sometimes it's comparison. We're looking at
Mm-hmm.
where somebody else is, because
Right.
and you never know, when you're comparing to somebody else, you're comparing yourself to, and I do this too, like I'm comparing myself to somebody's year 10 at my year 2. You know what I mean? We're two different places, but I expect um, that for whatever reason, I think that I should be where she is. Like it doesn't make sense. And then, putting that added pressure on yourself is kind of unnecessary. So I like to dig into why I'm thinking, the way that I'm thinking, and then go from
Comparison, I'm glad you brought that up. I wasn't thinking about that, but I'm glad you brought that up, because that's important, because I think now more than ever we're dealing with that
there. Yeah.
comparison, and it and mainly it's because of social media, obviously. So
Hmm.
that is probably a lot of people's issues. So I totally relate to that, and I'm glad you brought that up. I think that kills a lot of people's joy, unfortunately, because, like you said, they spend a lot of time comparing themselves to someone else, and they don't know the path that that person took to get to where they are, or even if it's really real that they're there, if you know what I'm trying to say.
Hmm.
So I'm glad you
Hmm.
brought that up.
It's true.
Yeah,
And we stay out, keep our, we all have our own journeys, right? And I think
right.
that's the challenge, is just trust your process, not just trust the process, trust your process. Everybody's process is different. And I think when we start, looking at where we think we should be, and compared to what other people, it just throws you off. Just trust your process and just keep moving forward in your process.
I totally agree, and that's so important. Thank you, beautiful lady.
Yeah.
Katia, I love her. She is so sweet. She really is sweet as she can be. But yeah, that's so key. I know the problem that I used to have for me personally though is like sometimes I'll give myself timelines that I'm supposed to have something completed.
Mm-hmm.
So then if I didn't complete on that timeline, then I get very angry with myself, which really is not a good thing to do because at least, well, first of all, I could analyze, like you said, why I didn't get there.
Mm-hmm.
And if I was continuously doing something daily to try to get there, then I definitely need to forgive myself, so to speak. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? If I wasn't goofing off or, anything of that, you know what I'm trying to say. So,
Yeah. Yeah. And I I do that too. I beat myself up about that too. But I'm learning to, especially like you said, if I'm consistently taking action and I'm consistently working on it, I'm not just like playing around and I still miss the goal, then my thing to myself is, okay, you just got the date wrong, baby. Like that's all it is. You just got the date wrong. So you
I
thought it was
like
going
that.
to be
Got the
this
date
date,
wrong.
this date. That's all. That's all.
And it just means that it's going to be even greater because it took you a little bit longer than you thought.
Yep,
I
that's
love
it.
that. Yeah,
You just got the date wrong.
definitely. That no comparing. Oh my goodness, because
Yes.
I
Yeah.
that is a big thing now. I mean, and I would say that's more of a now problem than definitely be our parents or their parents. Of course, back in the day, you used to hear the saying, "Keeping up with the Joneses." So, like in
Yes.
neighborhoods, and somebody got a new car, well, I've got to get a new car. So that was
Yep.
their form of, I guess, comparison back in the day.
Yep. Yep. Now we got a whole nother level of comparison going on.
A whole nother level. Ooh,
Yeah.
just had no idea. It's never it's never ending. So let's see. So do you have anything like any projects that you want to talk about, or anything that you may any upcoming thing that you would like to discuss?
I guess I really just want to encourage anybody who doesn't know their purpose, to work to try and figure it out. I think that you see that quote is what the first most important day is the day that you were born, and then the second one
Mhm.
is the day that you find out why. I think that is so important to be able to walk in that. Like, it makes the biggest difference in your life. And I did a few free group coaching sessions last month or month before. I'll be doing a
Yeah, you
few
did.
more of those in the next couple of months. So you guys look out for those, so you can take advantage of those sessions and get some free coaching. I'm always happy to help in any way that I can, and just getting everybody to reach out if you need help with anything.
Yeah, that's definitely. We definitely gonna be on the lookout for that, for sure. There was something that somebody said that I was gonna say. in regards to you. And I must have missed that comment. It was a good one too. I hate when I do that. But
Comments.
yeah, all these comments. It was something that someone said I was gonna ask you about, and I don't know if I overlooked it. Maybe it'll come back to me. But the thing that I think we need to focus on for sure is, like Gabrielle was mentioning, really, have a heart to heart with yourself. Are you
Hmm.
really, happy in what you're doing right now? And
Hmm.
what would bring you some contentment? What would bring you some joy? Something that you would really have some passion about, probably be passionate
Yeah.
about, because you're definitely being passionate about being a life coach. I can tell that. Would that be correct in me
Yes.
saying
That
that?
absolutely. That is my jam. And I just encourage people to, like you said, it's that contentment, that joy, and that peace. Oh my gosh, that peace that's associated with just knowing with clarity that you're walking in your purpose, and walking in what it is that you're meant to do, and just knowing that you love it. Like, one of my things is that I make going to work on Mondays easy. And that is so true. And that's what happens when you're doing what you love to do. And you're doing what you're meant to do.
Oh, doing what you meant to do. I love that. I love that. I do want to go back to one thing that you said. You said something about, and you're born again when you realize what you're meant to do. Say that phrase again. You say when you're
Yeah,
first born.
yeah. It's your two most important dates of your life are the day that you were born, and then the day that you find out why.
Didn't you write something about that on one of your posts
Um,
like a while back, or am I, or was it a
probably
blog?
probably a long time ago. I don't remember,
I
but
think it
yeah,
was in one of your blogs, because when you said it, yeah, that
I'm sure
resonates
I
with me.
did.
That's a powerful statement right there.
Yeah, it's one of my favorite quotes, and so I think that's Mark Twain, and it's one that I think about often, especially when it comes to my people, for sure. Because we're just out here trying to find our purpose, and I think I just think about the way I was. I was the way I would describe it was aimlessly moving through life, right? Like wandering through life with no aim, and that was not a good feeling. And so I always want to encourage people and help people to not do that, because it was
But
miserable.
yeah, what's weird too is, ironically, a lot of people do live that way.
Yeah, I know.
Sadly,
I know.
as crazy as that sounds, they're going through life aimlessly, but really, a lot of people do that.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
that's why so many people are so unhappy at times, because of that very thing that you just said. Cynthia said, "What is the next step for you? I guess for next year. For next
Oh, my
year."
next step is to continue serving, loving y'all, serving y'all, helping as many people as I can find and walk in their purpose. That's my life.
Well, I'm gonna tell you what I love. I've always thought you were a great person. I could
Yeah.
see that just by looking at your face, your smile. It's all over. You have that aura.
Oh, thank
You
you.
have you have that aura about you. So tell. And that statement of what you just said, how many people you can help, your focus. I love that, because that's
Yes.
important. I truly think I think that's a lot of our purposes, though maybe not to necessarily be a life coach like yourself, but to find things that you can help others. And
Oh
that could
yeah.
be so many different aspects. There's so many different ways, whether it's just entertaining people, making them laugh. I'm just using that as an example, but it's just so many ways
It's true.
that you
It's
can help
true.
others. And by helping others, it does bring you joy. That right there brings you joy when you actually help people
Well,
and
your
whatever
purpose,
that you decide to do. Hmm.
yes, for
Go ahead.
sure. Yeah, your purpose is always going to be, it's not going to be about you ever. It's always going to be
Mhm.
about serving others. Um,
Right.
you, what ends up happening is you end up using your gifts that you were given to do that. So it's always going to be something that you're passionate about, but it won't be about you. It will be in service to other people, always. And I also, piggybacking off what you said, I also want to point out, because I think a lot of people think when it comes to purpose that it has to be this big thing, like you have to be the next Oprah or the next Beyonce or something like that. Like your purpose could be to be the best stay-at-home mom that you can be, to be the biggest, the best Poshmark reseller, that you can be. Be whether it be a life coach, whether it be an engineer, whether it be an author, whatever. I mean, your purpose can look like anything. I don't want people to think, because I thought this for a long time, that because I couldn't think of anything where I would be the next Beyonce, and I use Beyonce, y'all, because that if you know me, I love Beyonce. Um,
You and me both, so I get it. And probably quite a few other people up here as well. But go ahead.
so yeah, but that's the thing that held me back, was because I was thinking like, I had no desire to be like somebody out there in front of a whole bunch of people, all eyes on me kind of deal. Like I had zero desire to do any of that or be any of that. And so that was another thing that held me back. I was like, oh yeah, no, I don't want to do that. And so I just want to let people know that it could look like anything. There's no certain way that your purpose needs to look. It's just whatever desire that you have this constant tug on you, that won't go away. And that brings
That's
you joy and fulfillment.
Yeah, that is so true because realistically speaking, I think a lot of people do think exactly what you're saying, that they have to be the big like this person or they have to do something like this, but they had their own path. That was
Yeah,
their path. And then you just have to find yours and you can be just as happy doing what you're doing. Just as I'm sure they're happy doing what they're doing as well, because
yes,
that's their purpose. That's their joy. I love it. Well,
yes.
I want to thank you so much for coming out. And I'm hoping, if you don't mind, we can talk some more 2021. If you don't
Yes.
mind, we can kind of set up something. What do you think about that?
Yes, I'm all for it. Yeah, just let me know.
Yeah.
Happy to
Yeah,
help.
definitely. Because you're such a phenomenal person. And everybody, again, make sure you are following her on Instagram. Make sure that you're reading her captions. Make sure that you're reading her blogs. She has a website as well. Make sure that you subscribe, because I think you can subscribe via email, right, or something like that. Just make sure that you are checking out all her information because she gives such great advice. Just a wealth of stuff is just on her site that'll bring you joy and perspective in life, definitely. And anybody else have a last question before we go? Because I'm hoping these comments are working right. They look like they are.
Yep, it looks like it.
Yeah, they look like they're working pretty good. And I appreciate everybody for coming out and supporting.
Yes,
Um,
thank you
Gabrielle, I
all.
really appreciate that. Wait a minute, I do have a new comment. I guess, yeah, definitely.
Pink and
Oh,
Gabulous.
thank you, Michelle. Michelle, and I call her Light Bright. She's like one of the sweetest people. Such a wonderful woman. She actually can help out too. If you're branding, coming up with stuff, she can provide products to help you with that. She's a very talented lady. Thank you so much, Michelle. And that's right on Insta. Actually, Pink, great question. Pink and Gabulous. And I can put that down if I can type.
Gabulous, like Fabulous with a G.
That's right.
Pink and Gabulous.
Oh, God. Yeah, I sure messed that up. Disregard that, y'all. I said it right, but I certainly didn't type it correctly at all.
It's okay.
Yeah. Yeah, there we go.
Thank you, Sandra.
Yeah, definitely check her out. Such a treat. She's phenomenal. And you won't be disappointed. You'll definitely enjoy everything that you see, because what can I say? She's a brilliant lady.
Oh, well, thank you.
All
Thank you
right.
so much, Marilyn. I appreciate you having me on. This was very great. Thanks everybody for joining. It was good to see y'all on here chatting, and definitely feel free to reach out if you have any questions or if you need anything.
Yeah, and everybody definitely do hit thumbs up and subscribe if you haven't already. Thank you, everyone. Good night, everyone.
Thank you. Bye.